Hello friend, welcome back to Acre Homestead. If you are new, my name is Becky, and today we are going to be making a sheet pan dinner. We are actually going to be making 5 different sheet pan dinners. I was so inspired by the 5 crock pot recipes and the 5 instant pot recipes that I thought I'm going to try my hand at sheet pan dinners. I have never made one before, and we are going to make 5 of them. Not all today, we're only going to make one today. Today we are going to be making honey, chili, sweet potato, and chicken bake with some green beans from the garden. So I'm peeling 2 sweet potatoes here, but I could not find my potato peeler anywhere. Normally I would peel my potatoes with a potato peeler, but I spent about 10 minutes looking, and I thought, you know what? In the time it has taken me to look for this potato peeler that I cannot find, I could have used a paring knife to peel my sweet potatoes. So I'm going to get 2 of these sweet potatoes peeled up and diced up
to go along with tonight's dinner. So tonight is a sweet potato, chili, chicken bake or sheet pan dinner. We're going to make a jalapeno lime cilantro yogurt sauce that is phenomenal and is going to go in my regular rotation because that sauce is so good. We're also going to make a sausage and veggie bake hash that could be made for breakfast or dinner or lunch. We're going to do Greek chicken, tandoori chicken with couscous, and a honey harissa chicken with a tahini dressing. These sheet pan dinners are probably one of my new favorite cooking techniques for a quick and easy dinner. I'll show you how we meal prep too to make our lives even easier. The recipes all call to either line your sheet pan with foil or parchment. I chose to use parchment for these recipes, and you need a full-size sheet pan to make these recipes, and I can link what I have down below.
I think the key to this recipe is this sauce that we're going to make to drizzle over the chicken and the sweet potatoes. It's a honey chili sauce. So we're going to start with 3 tablespoons of honey. I'm going to warm this up for just about 10 seconds so that when we make the sauce, it'll be more spreadable. You can see now that I've warmed it up, it's a little bit more liquidy. To this, we're going to add our oil. We're basically making like a dressing to go over top of our chicken and sweet potatoes. Now I'm going to add some onion powder, ginger, black pepper, a good amount of chili powder. This is what the main flavor is with the honey. Just a little bit of cayenne, salt, some fresh minced garlic, and we're gonna mix this together.
Now that we have our chili sauce done, I've got some green beans from the garden that are already pre-washed, and I'm going to get these on my sheet pan. Now, I can link all these recipes down below for you as well. These are all brand new to me, so we're going to find out together how well they turn out and how we like them. Spoiler alert, they are all really good, and every single one of them are a recipe that I would try again. But I do need to season up the green beans before we bake them. We're not putting the chili honey sauce on the green beans, so I'm going to get some oil and salt and pepper on them. And then we are going to get some of the chili sauce on both of the sweet potatoes and on the chicken. I do take and toss the sweet potatoes in with that honey chili sauce, and then with the chicken I just dollop a little bit on each one, and I do end up going in with a pastry brush and I brush the tops of each one of these chicken thighs. I chose chicken thighs because they're a lot more forgiving. The recipe called for chicken thighs, but if you don't like chicken thighs, you could go ahead and use chicken breast. I just prefer chicken thighs because I don't have to worry about overcooking them as much as chicken breast.
The recipe states we need to bake this for 15 minutes at 375, and then we will turn the broiler on and bake it for another 5 to 10 minutes. While this is baking, we're going to make the sauce that goes on the top of it. Now we're going to make our yogurt sauce. I'm going to take about 3/4 of a cup of yogurt and put it into a bowl. And then I've already pre-washed some veggies here. This is a jalapeno from the garden. I think I'm going to leave the seeds in it because my jalapenos from my garden are not very hot. So we're going to stick that in there along with 2 green onions. And then I roughly chopped some cilantro Get all of that in there. And then we're gonna take some lime. We need some fresh lime juice. Now we're gonna add some salt, pepper, and garlic powder.
The recipe said to do this in a food processor. I didn't want to get a food processor dirty, so I used my hand blender. I think a food processor probably would have done a little bit better of a job, but this worked just as well. You could probably use a blender too. So we're going to blend this up, and this is going to be our sauce to drizzle over top of our chicken, sweet potatoes, and green beans.
Now it's time to give this a taste test to see if we need to adjust the seasonings. I'm always a big fan of anything that's like jalapeno, cilantro, lime, green onion. I think it just adds just such freshness and deliciousness to anything. That is so good. I don't think it needs any more salt. I think we're good. I think that, that jalapeno has a little bit of heat to it, which I like. I think that's gonna be a perfect combination with the chicken that's sweet and a little smoky from the chili pepper. I think this is gonna be the perfect match for it.
While dinner is in the oven, I thought I should use this time to be efficient and get ready for one of the other meals we're gonna make.
I was just looking through my recipes and I realized that the tandoori chicken that we're gonna make has a lot of the same ingredients. So I'm gonna go ahead and meal prep that now since I have them out and I kind of got a little bit of a mess going on here. We're gonna meal prep it so that when we make this dinner, it will be ready for us and we'll have a few less steps we'll have to do to make this recipe. First thing we need to do is make a marinade for the chicken and a sauce for the cauliflower, but I'm not gonna marinate the chicken and cauliflower yet. I'm just gonna make the marinade so it's ready to go for us. I have a peck of fresh ginger and a peck of fresh garlic, and then we're gonna add some lemon. I just take ginger, peel it, grind it up, and freeze it in these little pucks. And I do the same thing with garlic so that I have fresh garlic and ginger on hand at any time. So we're gonna get that in there with some lemon juice and some salt, pepper, chili powder, cumin, onion, a little bit of cinnamon, yogurt, I'm gonna mince up some fresh cilantro. I'm gonna get this in our sauce. Now I'm gonna mix my sauce together, and that is the marinade for one of the recipes we're gonna be making this week. Because I haven't added the raw chicken to it, I'm actually gonna give this a taste test to see if we need to adjust the seasonings at all. It smells good. Oh yeah, that is delicious. I don't think it needs any change at all. So now the next thing I'm gonna meal prep since I'm in the kitchen and I have a knife out and a cutting board is I'm gonna prep my cauliflower. I already washed it up. The cinnamon in that sauce is so good. It's a little unexpected, but wow, I can taste it. And I don't know if I didn't know it was in there, I don't know if I would know it was in there, if that makes any sense, but I'm glad it's in there. So I'm gonna give this to the chickens, and I'm gonna cut these into little cauliflower florets. And I went ahead and I lined a baking sheet with some parchment paper. That's the sheet I'm gonna actually cook this dinner on. So I figured I might as well get that out. I'm gonna go ahead and prep this whole head of cauliflower. It's been about 25 minutes, so this is taking a little bit longer than the recipe originally called for, but my green beans are done, so I'm gonna take my green beans off before I put this on broil to get everything nice and caramelized, but I don't want my green beans to cook anymore. So I've just got a bowl here that I'm gonna transfer them to. It smells really good. Put this back in here. I'm gonna turn it on broil, and I'm gonna keep a close eye on it, and we're gonna have it cook for, I don't know, about 5 minutes or so. I'm gonna stick this meal prep with the recipe in the refrigerator, and we already have this recipe almost done. We just need to add the chicken, put it all together, and bake it up. And then I'm gonna make a yummy side, a couscous side to go along when we make this dinner. So I didn't realize we were gonna get some meal prep done today too.
Dinner is done. I got it out of the oven after it broiled for about 10 minutes, and I'm gonna dish up the green beans first, and then I'm gonna add some sweet potato. I probably should have made twice as many of those green beans because they were so good, and I was snacking on them while I was waiting for the dinner to come out. Really, really delicious. Now I'm gonna top the sweet potatoes, green beans with a piece of chicken, and the best part of this meal right here is this jalapeno yogurt sauce. So delicious. The juxtaposition of the smoky chicken with the sweet potato and the fresh jalapeno yogurt sauce, phenomenal.
Josh texted me and said he'll be here in about 3 minutes, so it's gonna be perfect timing for dinner. I can't wait to try it, but it's gonna be so hot. That didn't even take me probably 20 minutes total, and that included having to use a knife to peel the sweet potatoes. We got 2 sides, a main, the meat, and a sauce. And I have so much extra sauce. We're gonna be able to use this for other yummy good things. Orbit, please don't whine. My dog is ready for dinner too. Oh my goodness. That chicken is so tender. My friend, this is a delicious dinner. I will link this recipe down below. First time making a sheet pan dinner, I would make this again. Good morning, friend. We are gonna make this next sheet pan recipe for breakfast. This could be a dinner or a breakfast recipe. I wasn't planning on making it for breakfast, but Josh is working from home today. So I thought I would go ahead and make this because this is gonna be probably the easiest recipe we're making out of all these recipes so far. This is sheet pan sausage and veggie, and the recipe gives you a lot of freedom to choose whatever kind of vegetables you want. And because it's garden season, and I have all of these homegrown veggies, I thought this would be a good breakfast and a good one to make next. I have my large baking sheet out with some parchment paper here again. And I'm gonna start with some zucchini. I think I'm gonna do 1 green one and 1 yellow one. I grabbed 3 out, but that's probably too much because I wanna make sure I've got enough room for all the other veggies I wanna add on here. So I'm gonna keep them a little bit on the larger side. I probably cut the green ones a little too small because it's all supposed to bake at the same time. You're supposed to toss all the vegetables together, but I think I'm gonna leave them separate like I did yesterday.
The recipe said you could really use whatever kind of vegetables you wanted. It recommended zucchini, peppers, onions, potatoes, and cherry tomatoes. I used all of them except for the cherry tomatoes because I just didn't feel like going out into the garden and harvesting cherry tomatoes. We do end up using cherry tomatoes in the Greek chicken, and it is so good roasted in the oven, but I'm kind of glad I didn't use it in this recipe because it kind of creates a sauce. And with these vegetables, it was more like a hash because I had all these vegetables chopped up, and then I chopped up these potatoes, and basically once it came out of the oven and everything was roasted and toasty and delicious, then I kind of mixed it all together just like a potato hash. When I make potato hash, I usually bake the potatoes in the oven, and then I brown the sausage on the stove. I take the sausage out of the pan, and then I brown all the vegetables. And this was way easier, and I will absolutely be doing this again because I was able to cook all of the ingredients in the oven at the same time. The key though is I chop the potatoes really, really small, and I chop some of the other vegetables a little bit bigger so that they would bake and all be done at the same time.
How beautiful is this already? And it's not even cooked yet. It's almost done. I'm gonna drizzle everything with a little bit of olive oil. And this is where you can also get really creative, I think. You can season it however you want. I'm gonna season everything with some salt and pepper first. Next, I have some homemade, homegrown garlic powder. Same with this. If you're wondering why my onion powder is purple, it's because I made this onion powder with purple onions. So we're gonna get some of that on there. And then the recipe calls for Italian seasoning. Well, I don't have that, but I have a ton of fresh or freeze-dried basil, so I'm gonna put that on next. And we're gonna call that for the seasoning. And now I'm gonna get in here and try to kind of toss everything in its line. The recipe says to toss everything together, but I'm gonna try to keep them a little bit in there like with like. And it needs to bake for at least 25 to 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes and everything looks divine. The potatoes are cooked through perfectly. Oh, the sausage has a nice crust to it. I'm gonna dish up some for Josh and I for breakfast. I think I'm just gonna mix everything together because it's like a hash almost. That was so easy to do. Easier than over the stove. I have some leftover yogurt, cilantro, jalapeno sauce from yesterday's dinner. I think that will go really well on this hash.
Bon appetit.
Dinner tonight, we're gonna have Greek sheet pan dinner. And the recipe says it only needs to marinate for 10 minutes, but since I'm in the kitchen, I'm gonna go ahead and get the marinade going, and that can just marinate all day. So first thing in here is some thyme. The next thing is a little bit of oregano. Got some garlic that I've already pre-diced. A little bit of Dijon mustard. I actually don't have Dijon mustard, I have whole ground, and I'm gonna use that instead. And then we need the juice of 1 lemon, or about 3 tablespoons. I've got another lemon in the fridge if I need to pull another one out. That looks like it'll be about 3 tablespoons. Whoop, that was a lot of pepper. I'm gonna take some of that out. So that was pepper. Now we're gonna add some salt. I'm gonna add a good quality olive oil. We're gonna whisk this together. Now I'm gonna give it a taste test and see if we need to adjust the seasonings at all. Perfect. There is not too much pepper in there. Now I'm gonna reserve 1/3 of this for the vegetables, and the rest of it is going to be for the chicken. I just added 6 chicken thighs that I trimmed any excess fat from. I'm gonna toss them in this marinade. I'm gonna cover it, and then I'm gonna go head out into the garden. I'm gonna go harvest some vegetables for tonight's dinner.
We end up making this next recipe for lunch, and it makes a really quick and easy lunch, but this could be a quick and easy dinner as well. I was doing some recipe testing on this day, and I had some bread, and I thought that the Greek chicken would go really well with the bread because these cherry tomatoes are going to make a little bit of a sauce. When it bakes, they're going to release their juices, and I thought that having something to dip into those, tomato juices would be really, really good. So that is what we're going to make here. I've got my marinade that we reserved that we made earlier, and I'm going to put that over the vegetables, and then I'm going to go in and toss all the vegetables in with this marinade, but I want to make sure I get all of it because it is so delicious. I make roasted vegetables quite regularly, but I have never thought to put a kind of vinaigrette style dressing on it before, and I think it's brilliant. I will definitely do that. Normally when I roast vegetables, I just do olive oil, salt, pepper, garlic powder. That's kind of my go-to. But this is delicious. with putting a dressing almost on it. So I'm going to toss all the vegetables in this and then kind of lay them out flat. And then I'm going to take the chicken and I'm going to nestle the chicken in and amongst the vegetables. And it worked out perfect because I had the oven preheated to 425, and that is what I'm going to bake this recipe at for about 30 minutes or so. There is a couple more ingredients we're going to add to this close to when the cooking process is done, and that is this feta cheese. I purchased the block feta, so I'm going to take a second and kind of crumble it up. When the chicken has about 10 minutes left in the oven, that's when I'm going to sprinkle a good amount of this feta cheese over the top and let the cheese kind of warm through and get a little bit roasty and toasty. I'm now going to take a big handful of the herbs we harvested earlier. This is cilantro and parsley, and I'm going to give everything a rough chop. I'm doing way more than we need for today because I end up garnishing the rest of the recipes with fresh herbs. And so I thought, since I washed a bunch of them up, I might as well prep all of them and get them into a little glass container so they'll be ready for the next recipes. I also had a few green onions, and these were not in the recipes, but I wanted to use them, and I love fresh herbs in all of my cooking. I think it really elevates any dish. It just adds a level of freshness and brightness. And so I thought, let's go ahead and get these chopped up as well. I end up putting about 2/3 of them into the bowl with the cilantro and parsley. That's going to go in the fridge for later. And then the rest of it we're going to end up sprinkling on top of our lunch for today.
We have about 10 minutes left and it is looking beautiful. So now it's time to take our feta cheese that we crumbled. And I'm not going to measure this, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Wow, this looks so yummy. The chicken is starting to brown up nicely. I'm going to close this. We'll bake it for another few minutes. I think our lunch is done and it smells incredible. So let's get this dished up and served with some bread. First thing I'm going to do is sprinkle a bunch of these fresh herbs on the top. That's just going to brighten everything up. I'm excited to see how this chicken turned out in the oven with all of those kind of Greek flavors. I'm going to get a little bit of feta, a piece of pepper, a tomato, and a piece of zucchini, and have one perfect bite and see if we seasoned it properly. Because of my previous self's efforts, dinner tonight is going to come together in minutes. So we already made our yogurt sauce and we cut up our cauliflower. Now what we're going to do is pour half of this sauce over the cauliflower. I'm going to add 4 chicken thighs too. I already prepped these chicken thighs when I prepped some chicken thighs earlier, so I don't have to trim the fat off or anything like that. So we're going to mix the chicken thighs in with our yogurt sauce. 1 can of drained and rinsed garbanzo beans. And we're going to mix all of these ingredients together. I have the oven preheated to 425 degrees again. I forgot that this had cinnamon in it, and I can smell it, and it smells so yummy. So I'm going to just arrange these chicken thighs in here. Oh, I guess I only had 3 chicken thighs. They're pretty big though, so that should be plenty. And that took literal minutes to put together in the oven for a good 35 minutes or so. While that's cooking, let's cook up our side. We are gonna make some Israeli couscous for dinner tonight. I've got about maybe a tablespoon and a half of butter that I'm gonna melt down. Last time I made couscous with you was actually the first time I've ever made Israeli couscous, and I followed the directions on the back of the package, which is what I'm gonna do today. except I read one of your all's comments and you told me that what you need to do is actually toast the couscous in the butter first, and that is gonna exponentially make the flavor better. So when I read that, I wanna say thank you for leaving that comment, and thank you to every single one of you who leaves comments. I learn so much from them and I greatly, greatly appreciate them. So what I'm gonna do is I just added 1.5 cups of the Israeli's couscous. I'm gonna toast this in the butter, and then I'm gonna cook it exactly like this says. We'll add our water. I already pre-measured out my water. And it says bring the water to a boil, add salt, butter, olive oil if desired, stir in Israeli couscous. So I'm gonna toast this, remove this from the pan, and then bring this to a boil and then put it back in. That didn't take long for that to come to a simmer. So I'm gonna add the couscous in. I'm gonna reduce the heat. Now I'm gonna add some salt. The couscous is done, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. And I cut a piece of lemon, and I think that will add just some nice brightness to it. So I'm gonna stir that in. Oh yeah, the lemon. They have a nice toast to them. This is just how I'm gonna keep it. It's gonna be super simple, straightforward, because a lot of our flavor for our dinner tonight is gonna come from the yogurt sauce. It looks like our oven has about 10 more minutes before dinner's ready. Because I so enjoyed having tonight's dinner prepped, I'm gonna go ahead and prep the next sheet pan dinner that we're gonna be making, which is a honey Harissa. I think I'm saying that right, but let me know if I'm not. You all help me with the pronunciation of, it's bruschetta, not bruschetta, so thank you. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that correctly now, bruschetta. So tell me if I'm saying Harissa correctly. I have never cooked with this. I've always wanted to try to cook with this. It's like a chili sauce. And I went with the mild because that's what the rest, oh yeah, Moroccan red pepper sauce. And I went with the mild. I can link this down below. I had to order it because I couldn't find it at my local grocery store. Oh my goodness, it smells great. So we're gonna go ahead and make that in this bowl here. In this bowl, I'm gonna add a garlic puck, and then we're gonna add some olive oil. We're supposed to add 3/4 cup of this, which is probably about that much. Now we're gonna add some black pepper. Be careful not to spill it this time. Some onion powder, a little bit of ginger, honey, and salt. Now we're gonna whisk this together, and I'm gonna give this a taste test before we put the rest of the ingredients into it. So like I said, I've never tried this I gotta look at the spelling of it, Harissa before. Oh, that's good. A little bit of, I should just taste this. Let me get a spoon, taste this. I should read the ingredients too. Okay, so it's red bell pepper, red chili pepper, garlic, olive oil, cider vinegar, salt, and citric acid. I thought that there was vinegar in that. I almost said that, but then I didn't want to say the wrong thing. That's good, that's very mild. There's no heat to that at all. No heat. Oh, okay, there's a little bit of heat at the very end. I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside, and we're gonna prep our potatoes. So it said we need small potatoes. So I went downstairs. These are potatoes from the garden, and I picked out the smallest ones I could find, and it said to cut them in half. So that's what I'm gonna do here. I already pre-washed them. I'm gonna put these potatoes back in this bowl because we are gonna toss the potatoes in some of this sauce. I'm gonna put about half the sauce in there. I'm gonna set that aside, and I'm going to prep my broccoli. So this recipe called for broccoli, And so I grabbed one of these and I'm going to go ahead and just cut it into florets. I already pre-washed this broccoli. Since I still have all my seasonings out, I'm gonna go ahead and season this up. I'm not gonna add the salt. I'll add the salt when I go to bake it, but I'll get the rest of the seasonings on here. So just some salt, or not salt, that was pepper, some garlic, and maybe we'll add some onion. And then we'll mix this together. To our baking sheet, I'm out of my big parchment, so I'm gonna have to order some more of those. So I have 2 small ones. I'm gonna go ahead and lay the potatoes cut side down, and this will also help prevent them from oxidizing since I pre-prepped them. You don't ever wanna cut potatoes and then just leave them cut prepped because they'll turn brown on the cut side. But this will keep them from oxidizing. Now we have the rest of our sauce, and I have some chicken thighs that I already prepped earlier when I prepped the rest of them. So I took the extra fat off, and I'm gonna mix these chicken thighs in this sauce, and we will just let this marinate until we cook it. So I'm gonna go wrap all of this in some plastic wrap and then stick this in the fridge, and when we bake it, I'll pull it all out. Our dinner is done. Again, we're gonna top it with our parsley and cilantro mixture along with some green onions. You wouldn't even need to make couscous for this. I think the dinner alone would be good, but I really wanted to try this technique with toasting the couscous, and I had it in my pantry and wanted to use it up, so that's what I did today. So we're gonna get this dished up, a piece of chicken and some couscous and the beautiful roasted cauliflower. Absolutely stunning. So there's tonight's dinner. I wish you could smell this, friend. It smells incredible. So far, what I've been really enjoying about these sheet pan dinners, with the exception of this one, is they really don't need a side. Everything is in the oven, and the potatoes or the starch or whatever. I guess I did make bread, but I didn't make the bread necessarily for that sheet pan dinner. That was just a project I was working on. So it didn't need the bread though. I mean, the bread was delicious, but it would have been good just on its own. So let's give this a taste test. You may have noticed I'm using chicken thighs for almost all these recipes except for the sausage. That's because chicken thighs are the most forgiving. They are hard to overcook. You could substitute chicken breast if that's what you prefer, but they are a little bit harder to cook to have them not dry out. So perfect bite here, a little bit of chicken and cauliflower. Wow, that is not what I was expecting. It's way more savory than I was expecting. The warm spices, I mean, it makes sense. There's a lot of warm spices in it. It's almost cozy and comforting. This is certainly a winner. I will make this one absolutely again. So far, they've all been really good. I am looking forward to the next dinner we are going to be making, and it's only going to take a few minutes to put together because we've already prepped 90% of it. Friend, it has been a busy day, and can I just say I am grateful for my previous self's efforts. So let's get this in the oven. I'm going to lay my chicken on here. I think I'm going to take this leftover sauce and go ahead and just put it on the top of this chicken and let it bake in the oven with the chicken. There is one more sauce we are going to make. I did not make that earlier when I prepped the rest of the stuff, but we can do that while this cooks. So these are supposed to take longer to cook than the broccoli, so I'm gonna get this in the oven, and we're gonna bake this for about 20 minutes, and then we'll put the broccoli on and bake the broccoli once that's been baking for a bit. So let's make a tahini dressing to go on top of that. For the tahini dressing, I've got 1 puck of my garlic in here. I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of water, tablespoon of soy sauce, and tahini, which is ground up sesames. It is basically like sesame peanut butter. Pinch of salt, pinch of pepper. We're gonna stir this up and give this a test. When I make tahini dressing, I usually add a bunch more of ingredients, but this is what the recipe called for. So we're gonna try this, and I might add some more ingredients after I give this a taste test. When I make tahini dressings, I usually add lemon juice and cumin or vinegar to kind of balance out the, if you've never had tahini, it's what's in hummus. Hummus was traditionally chickpeas, tahini, olive oil, salt, pepper, lemon juice, and it's very savory tasting. That's good. I've never added soy sauce to tahini before, and that is good, but I do think it needs something to balance out that savoriness. So I'm gonna take some lemon that I had in my fridge, and I'm gonna cut a piece of that off and add that to it. Now I have to remember this is going over that harissa sauce, so that is gonna add some, balancing of flavors, but I think this on its own needs just a little bit something. I am by no means someone who is a professional when it comes to cooking, but I've watched enough cooking shows to know that the professionals like to balance the flavors of heat, sweet, acidity, savory. And so that's what I try to do in my cooking too. Oh yeah, that's a lot better. That just that little bit of lemon juice helped that. So this is the sauce we're gonna drizzle over the top, and dinner is basically done. I just need to wait for it to cook, and maybe in about 10 minutes I'll throw the broccoli on this sheet pan. One thing I noticed with this recipe is around the potatoes, it got really dark and almost burned. I think they're gonna be fine, the actual potato themselves, as long as I'm careful, because that looks perfect. But the chicken creates moisture, and so even though it has the same sauce on it, it didn't get that kind of charredness around. So I think it would be best if you kind of intermix these all together like we did with the last recipe. But even with that, I think it's gonna be no problem at all. Look at how beautiful and crispy these potatoes are on the underside because we laid them out flat. Some broccoli. And I'm glad I didn't cook the broccoli the whole time because they're perfectly cooked. I think if we had put them in the whole time, they would be way overcooked. Piece of chicken, and I'm excited to give this a try. But first, before we try it, I'm gonna drizzle it with a little bit of our tahini dressing or sauce. So let's give this a try. This was one of the recipes I was most looking forward to because it is unlike anything I've ever made before, because I've never cooked with the harissa before, and so I really was looking forward to this. And I've never made potatoes like this before, where I've coated the potatoes in a sauce and then baked them. So I just thought this sounded so good and so unique. So let's make a perfect bite and give it a try. That is really good. That has super complex flavor between the pepper sauce and the tahini dressing. Trying the potato. Okay, those potatoes with the fresh herbs on the top, the green onion, cilantro, and parsley. That is an absolute winner. All of these dinners that we made, and I guess technically we made a breakfast and a lunch too, but they all could be dinners, were fabulous. I'm trying to think what my favorite was because I really enjoyed all of them. They all had such different flavor profiles. They all were really, really different. What I loved about them is they were all really easy and really delicious. Probably my two favorites are the first one we made, the sweet potato with the yogurt, jalapeno, cilantro, lime dressing. I love anything like that. I love anything with sweet potato and with a yogurt sauce. So good. And then I really liked the sausage bake that we made with all those vegetables. So easy, so good. I will be making that for breakfast and for lunch or for dinner when I just need something quick and easy. This was so fun. thank you for being here as we made these 5 recipes. If you enjoyed this, I can pop a video right here where we make 5 Instant Pot recipes, and then a video right here where we make 5 crock pot recipes. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was inspiring and encouraging, and I hope you'll give one of these recipes a try because they are delicious. I will link them all down in the description box for you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.